let me play. Oh, exciting. Okay, so hi everyone.
Mm.
My name is Natasha Fontenelle. I was at RCA from 2020 till 2022 on the MA Ceramics and Glass. What I want to talk about today is a part of my practice is where I have began making fabric collage paintings. So I wanted to It's been a good opportunity for me to just collate them all together and just discuss them. And then I'm grateful for any feedback or critique or anything you have to offer. So let's begin. So I was quite nervous about this today. Okay, share my screen. Okay, cool. So, sorry, start slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so that's me, what I said. And okay, so this is a image of quite a few of my collage paintings all together on the floor. And like I've noticed said that was on the MA Ceramics and Glass, and I have a mainly ceramics background. I did a ceramics diploma at City Lit 20, 2011. And then after that, I was at 401 Studios. I shared a studio with another ceramic artist for about 7 years, and then I went on to RCA. And so I did go for the theoretical part of the course and for connecting with people because I had spent a lot of time just in my studio making. So yeah, let me move on. So I would say the fabric collage paintings, I would say started from this project. And this project was called Intervals, and it was a project that happened during the first year at RCA. And my first year, 2020, was all online. And the three of us here, Catalina, who's on my right, she was the a second year on the MA Ceramics and Glass, and Danny, sound artist. And the three of us created a bubble, an art bubble, where the studio I was in had a small gallery connected to it. And we were able to use this gallery whenever we wanted. So we would go in the gallery space, we created our own bubble, and we would make. We had planned to do the project for about just for a couple of weeks, but it ended up lasting a number of months, nearly a year. I think mainly because there was no other contact. Didn't have any contact with anyone else on my course. And Kathleen also didn't have any contact with anyone else on her course. So we kind of created this bubble so that we could just continue making. And so, yeah, we would go to the gallery space. We would have a small discussion at the start of this project. And then we would put on our overalls and we would make mainly in silence. And we would record some of it. Some of it became quite performative, but mainly kind of unconsciously performative. So the project was we'd have a large canvas on the floor. We put 6 bags of clay in the center of the canvas, and we would just make, and there would be certain moments during the course of the making where we would collectively break and sometimes just sit or have an actual break out of the gallery space, or there were different movements, etc., that we would have to make. But most of the time, we'd make in silence. So this canvas that we had the clay on. Then we would introduce different sorts of slips to work with the clay and knead into the clay. And after that process, we would remove the clay carcass, and what we were supposed to be left with was the remnants of the performative work we'd been making on this canvas. But actually, what we ended up doing was again making. We almost didn't want the making process to stop. So then we began working on this canvas again using slips, clay slips, different colors, paints. And then we began a whole new process of making in this canvas. I unfortunately don't have a picture of the final project, final piece. So this was where I feel like was the start of me working with clay, ceramics, and with fabric here, and actually being inside the picture. And the project was called Intervals, and it was about the break. It was about those moments in time where, either intentional or not, as with lockdown, you would have to have a break, and how those moments of quiet and those moments of pause were just as relevant to whatever was going to continue next. Like they were needed, and to give those breaks and those times attention. So that was the Intervals project. Okay, so here I'll just go on to discuss briefly the quiet ones. So as I said, I would make ceramic sculptures, but within these sculptures, I would imagine these creatures that lived inside the sculptures, and they were called the quiet ones. They were kind of hybrid creatures, plants, animals, people, and they would always live in symbiotic harmony with their environment. They were very resilient. They would work with whatever was there. And different tribes would live in different sculptures, and they'd all have different varying hierarchical roles. So what would happen was the more I would look into the sculptures and see this environment and these people living in them, the more I saw, the more they would reveal themselves to me. And yeah, so that was about them showing me who they were, and there were lots of them. I have these two drawings here. I have about, I don't know, 500 of them or something. So it was almost like I always imagined it as doing a police sketch of something that was going past very quickly, and I'd only have moments to do these quick drawings with the quiet ones. So the quiet ones would evolve, and it was almost like the secondary character was becoming to the forefront. So where the sculptures were the main project, what was happening now was what was inside the sculptures were now starting to take center stage. So they would be colored and they would get larger. These ones were, I think, A4, where the others were A6, and they were getting bigger and changing and developing. So the quiet ones, so you'll see them running through all of this. After intervals, 2021, I went to St. Lucia. I did a residency in between the first and the second year of the course. And there was, I would do some performative work with clay on a platform. And then I would also do these fabric collage paintings as well. So this is where they came. Now they grew larger. They were, the quiet ones were getting bigger. And this particular piece was all about occupying space and how I occupied space differently in London to how I occupied space in the Caribbean, and how I would move in my space difference, and how once you acknowledge something and gave it attention that it needed, then it would almost, they would have the freedom to grow. And I think that attention and the care allowed them to grow and allowed them to shape shift and allowed them to change form and almost be accepted. So this is these pieces called corners, and you'll see them here on the floor. Oh yeah, so I talked about the canvas and the platform. And here, during this time I did the fabric collage paintings, I would also do some performative work with clay. And this piece was called Project Blackbird. You might have heard me talk about it before, where I'd embodied the blackbird. So while I was waiting to get to St. Lucia, I was for a small time in a quarantine hotel. And during the time in the quarantine hotel, the only beings I had conversations with were the birds. And I felt like the birds had come and given me a message to embody the blackbird if I wanted to move on to my next stage in life. So this piece was durational. It was over 3 days, and I would work with ritual, vulnerability, and I would have to perform the same actions every day. I would wake up at a certain time in the morning. I'd start the performance at 6 in the morning. At 6 in the evening, I would go to the sea and go and have a swim in the sea. And then I'd do the same process the next day. And then during the day, when I woke up at 6, I would be on this platform. And what I'd started to see here is the correlation between me working on this. Canvas, which this platform was now a physical canvas, and working with the clay. I was working with the clay in the same way that I was working with the paintings. And it was, yeah, I could see the relationship to them. So I did this performance over 3 days, and it was very much connecting to the trees, the birds, and the energy of the day, and just working with whatever happened. And that again is often the way I work with the paint. This picture here is of me embodying the blackbird, and this was on the final day of the performance. Okay, so the year after, this was at the end of the course, 2022, I went back to St. Lucia again, and it was another similar process. I would work again on this platform that was becoming my canvas. And I was now the silver dragon spider, where I was embodying a spider. And I worked here, you'll see actually old remnants of the clay from the year before. Tea that I was using, the bay leaf tea that I was drinking all throughout the holiday. And I also used this tea to dye the fabric paintings. And then fresh clay that I was using to make this new work where I was becoming the silver dragon spider. And that's the last scene of the silver dragon spider performance where we had a baby. So it was very nice. Um, okay. So during this time, I had now the corners the year before I did 4 fabric paintings. This time I've now done 10, 10 fabric paintings, and they all had a sibling, a partner, somebody to be with. And I think at this time I was feeling like yeah, the I needed companionship and so did the quiet ones. So they all had a companion piece. And you'll see they all have a companion piece. And if they don't have an actual companion piece, they have a companion within the same piece. So this is 10, again, all on curtains. The fabric, the canvases that I use for the fabric pieces are all curtains, and I think they're relevant because there's something about the fabric having this kind of quiet presence that can then it's like a quiet noise. It can look unassuming and then take over a lot of space. And it's also about a place where you can prepare, you can cover the curtain and prepare behind the curtain. Okay, so this is more of the 10. And again, I found the way of making was very, again, very performative, like the way I had made worked with the clay on the platform, very much in the piece, in the We were very much together, and I was in the picture, put myself in the picture. And this is the 10. This piece didn't have an actual physical companion piece, but you'll see there's like two companions that within the same piece. There's two. And here I'm looking at different ways of displaying these fabric paintings because I'm tying them up, I'm nailing them, I'm covering them around objects. They're on the floor, they're hung up. People have talked to me about possibly either putting a piece of wood at the top or framing them, and that's something yeah, I would like opinions about as well. The one was another fabric painting, again, being in the picture and working performatively also comes out again within this, the one. This was when I came back from St. Lucia after that residency for my final show at RCA, and this was like an accumulation of everything that had happened before. This was the one. Okay, this one here is also from the 10. And yeah, this is about the quiet ones having changed into a new space, a new form, but also having to feel like they weren't quite used to this new form. They were still adapting to their new form and learning to be in this new form of a larger fabric piece. Again, working in the piece, how it becomes performative, similarly to how I work with the clay. Okay, so the last piece here is called Stay Broken. And this is one of my recent pieces that's showing at the moment now in Marble Arch. And this is about fragmentation and embodiment, and it's about allowing yourself to stay broken, allowing those parts of you, your soul, your being to stay broken if they want to, and not feeling the need to fix and forcing things to fix, but instead building threads and bridges to those broken parts and letting those fragments transfer information back to you from wherever they are. And yeah, basically not feeling a need to fix them, but them being together. Yeah, so this is Stay Broken, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing in a second. Okay, so yeah, that's all the pieces. I didn't have any clay pieces to show you. But what I wanted to talk about was the similarities between working with the clay to working with the fabric. And I wanted to ask about the display of the fabric, um, thoughts, crits, impressions. Yeah, I think that's it. Um, yeah, I think that's me really. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm wondering if I should stop here and then log back in.
Are you allowed to do that on Zoom if you log out and you can come back in on the same detail?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
that's great. Okay.
So
Okay,
everybody
so we
happy
just,
to
yeah,
do
that's
that?
fine.
Come
So should
back?
we just turn off and then come back in?
Yeah, please. Part
Okay,
two.
Okay.
great.
See you in
Thank
a
you.
second.